Do you need an online therapist for anxiety? Would you like to talk to a therapist online to get help with your anxiety? Then please go to my website and learn more about this online therapy service that I offer via Skype. So I specialize in mindfulness therapy for the treatment of all kinds of anxiety disorders, ranging from generalized anxiety disorder to social anxiety disorder, including agoraphobia. I work a lot with obsessive compulsive disorder, and in general, the mindfulness approach is particularly effective for producing changes in quite a short time. And typically people see substantial improvements after the first 2 to 3 sessions with me. And this is because we focus on really changing the underlying process that causes your anxiety. This is quite different than conventional talk therapy or counseling, and it's certainly different than medical approaches that advocate the use of medications. I do not recommend medications for the treatment of anxiety disorders because medications do not treat the underlying condition. They do not change the underlying process that creates anxiety. Mindfulness therapy does. It helps you change that underlying habitual process that produces anxiety. And that underlying process is psychological in nature. It is basically a psychological habit. So anxiety is primarily a habit. We learn anxiety. We are not born with anxiety. It does not develop out of nothing. It is a habit that is learned. We learn these habits quite naturally when we are exposed to emotional trauma, particularly in childhood, that we're unable to process. When that emotional trauma becomes stuck in the mind or suppressed, then it becomes a seed that leads to the development of anxiety disorders. However, you don't have to go back to childhood to try and change emotional trauma in order to recover from anxiety disorders that you might be experiencing now. Whatever the cause of that habit, however it got established, the place to change the habit is right now, as it manifests itself in your present situation. So mindfulness therapy allows you to change anxiety habits. And the most important way that we go about changing the anxiety habit is by changing the quality of relationship that we have with our anxiety and other emotions. So classically, the anxiety habit is sustained by levels of habitual reactivity to that anxiety. The habitual reactivity simply feeds the anxiety. And what is the main kind of reactivity that we encounter? It is primarily the reactive habit of avoidance and the reactive habit of aversion or hatred towards that anxiety. If you react to your anxiety with either avoidance or aversion, then you basically feed that anxiety and you prevent it from changing. So reactivity stops anxiety changing, and it prevents that anxiety habit from changing. So in mindfulness therapy, we overcome this habit of reactivity to our anxiety or other painful emotional habits. We learn to develop a conscious and friendly relationship to our anxiety. This is the key method that produces change and allows the anxiety habit to resolve itself and become replaced by more positive emotional habits. So if you don't react to your fear or anxiety, you won't feed it. So we learn to hold the anxiety in conscious, mindful awareness without reacting to it. We put the emotion in neutral, in effect. So we do this by meditating on our anxiety, or any other emotion for that matter. We hold it in awareness deliberately and learn how to sit with that anxiety without becoming reactive, without becoming identified with it. When we can do this, then we effectively neutralize the anxiety. It takes a little bit of training, but not very much. It is quite surprising how quickly you can overcome the anxiety habit, like any other habit, when you start applying consciousness, when you start really sitting with your emotions without reacting to them. When you can do that, then the habit starts to lose strength and begins to burn itself out. In fact, the analogy of a fire is very good here. So think about a fire. Its primary direction of change, if you like, is to burn itself out. That is its natural course. It's only because we throw fuel on a fire that it stops it from burning itself out. Well, our emotions operate in pretty well the same way. The anxiety habit is already trying to burn itself out. It's trying to heal. It's trying to resolve itself. It's trying to extinguish itself. But we inadvertently feed the anxiety habit through our continual habitual reactivity of avoidance and aversion. So once we stop doing that and we hold the anxiety in conscious awareness and stop reacting to it, it cannot do anything else but continue on its natural process of healing. It will burn itself out. So that is one of the key ingredients of mindfulness therapy, is learning to allow the anxiety habits to basically extinguish themselves through non-reactivity. We can also help the anxiety habit heal and resolve itself and extinguish itself by working with the imagery of the anxiety. And I will explain that to you in more detail if you decide to work with me and schedule an online therapy session with me. But all emotional suffering is based around imagery. How you see it in the mind is what actually causes the anxiety in the first place. The imagery of the anxiety is what causes the anxiety. And that imagery gets triggered by all kinds of different factors, external factors and internal factors. But that imagery is quite important. And when we learn how to see that imagery and then change it, we can help speed up that process of change. So if you'd like to get started with me with online therapy for anxiety, and you like the idea of working with an online therapist like myself who specializes in mindfulness therapy, then please contact me and let's schedule an online therapy session. This approach is immensely effective, and I have helped many hundreds of people now over the last 10 years using the mindfulness therapy that I have developed. So, if you need an online therapist to help you overcome your anxiety, please contact me and let's schedule a session. Thank you.